Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take complex ideas, break them down, and hopefully give you some actionable insights. Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating journey into, well, the core of human action. We're exploring a key chapter from Robert Sapolsky's huge work, Behave, the Biology of Humans at Our Best and Worst. This deep dive isn't just about what we do, it's really trying to get at why we do it, from our worst acts to our absolute best and all that murky stuff in between.
That's right. And Sapolsky's genius, I think, is how he peels back all these layers of causality. It's like an onion. He asks, okay, what happened in the second before behavior? That's your nervous system firing. But then what about the minutes before? The sights, the sounds, maybe things you weren't even consciously aware of. And then hours to days before. That's where hormones come in, changing how sensitive your brain is to those stimuli. And he just keeps going back. Childhood, genetics, culture, all the way to evolutionary pressures millions of years ago.
Yeah.
It's a vast landscape.
Wow, okay. That's a huge scope to cover. So let's try and unpack this a bit. But Sapolsky says before we can even start to understand the why, we have to define our terms. And that's where he says we hit these definitional quagmires, big words, right? We're talking about things central to how we see ourselves. Aggression, empathy, competition, cooperation, altruism, love. The list goes on.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is that this isn't just some, academic exercise. It matters. One reason it's so messy, as Sapolsky points out, is that these words are often caught up in really intense ideological battles. Their meanings get twisted, appropriated. He uses competition as a great example. Think about it. It could be a friendly pickup soccer game.
Right, low stakes.
Totally. Or it could be, say, kids competing for the best drawing prize in class. Or it could be, whose God is worth killing for. Same word, vastly different weight, different context, different everything, really.
That's a powerful point. The same label for wildly different things. And the other big reason he gives for this challenge, maybe even bigger, is that these terms just mean different things to scientists in different fields. Like, is aggression just the physical act? Or is it the thought, the emotion, the brain activity?
Exactly. Or take altruism. Is that a mathematical thing you see in bacteria colonies, like cooperating for survival? Or are we talking about moral development in a child learning to share?
Different lenses completely.
Right. And different fields tend towards what he calls lumping and splitting. One scientist might see two basic types of aggression. Another might look at the same thing and say, no, there are 17 distinct types here, each with its own biology.
So one person's aggression is another's detailed catalog. That must make comparing studies incredibly difficult.
It really does. It's a fundamental problem when you try to bridge disciplines.
Okay, so here's where it gets, I think, really interesting. Let's dive into aggression as a prime example of this definitional messiness. It's clearly not just one thing.
Oh, absolutely not. Animal behaviorists, for instance, they make a key split between offensive and defensive aggression. Think about someone invading territory versus the resident defending it. The biology underlying those can be quite different.
Okay.
And they also distinguish between aggression towards your own species, that's conspecific aggression, versus, say, fighting off a predator. Different triggers, different responses.
So it really matters who the aggression is aimed at and why. It's not just a generic fight response.
Precisely. Then you look at criminologists. They often distinguish between impulsive aggression, snapping in the heat of the moment, and premeditated aggression, which is planned.
Planned, cold.
Yeah. Anthropologists.
Yeah.
They look at the scale. Is it organized warfare? Is it a family feud, a clan vendetta, or is it an individual homicide?
Yeah.
Different levels of social organization involved.
Makes sense.
Then there's reactive aggression. You lash out because someone provoked you, versus spontaneous aggression, which seems to come out of nowhere. And maybe the most useful distinction for everyday life, hot-blooded, emotional aggression versus that cold-blooded, instrumental kind.
Instrumental meaning.
Meaning it's a tool to get something else. Sapolsky uses this great animal example, like one bird saying to another, look, I need your nesting spot, move, or I'll peck your eyes out. Nothing personal, though.
Right. The goal isn't the pecking itself, it's getting the real estate.
Exactly. It's strategic, not purely emotional.
That framework really clarifies things. And then there's a type I think many of us might, recognize, maybe even in ourselves sometimes, though we wouldn't use the fancy name, displacement aggression.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's when you're stressed or frustrated or maybe even in pain, and you take it out on someone weaker, someone who wasn't the cause of it.
The classic kicking the cat scenario.
Pretty much. Shock a rat in a lab,
Yeah.
and it's much more likely to bite a smaller rat nearby.
Yeah.
Or a baboon loses a fight with the alpha male,
Uh-oh.
and he'll often turn around and bully someone lower down the ladder.
So it cascades down.
It does. And here's the really fascinating kind of grim part. Doing this, displacing the aggression, can actually lower the stress hormone levels in the aggressor.
Seriously. So being nasty actually makes them feel better, biologically.
In a physiological sense, yes. It's like Sapolsky says, giving ulcers can help you avoid getting them. A very unsettling biological reality.
Wow.
And then, of course, you have the really chilling category, aggression done just for pleasure, which is, again, biologically distinct.
Man, that's a lot packed into one word, aggression. It really does shatter the idea of it being a single type of behavior.
Mhm.
And Sapolsky also mentions these specialized subtypes, right? Like maternal aggression.
Yes, which often has a unique hormonal signature, that protective instinct driven by specific endocrinology.
Yeah.
Or even the difference between actual fighting and just ritualistic threats, like primates baring their teeth, or those Siamese fighting fish putting on a big show instead of actually attacking. It's all communication, but not necessarily full-blown aggression.
So when we just casually say someone is aggressive, we're missing a huge amount of nuance about the why and the how.
Totally. And look, this whole definitional challenge, it's not just for the negative stuff like aggression. Trying to get a clear handle on positive terms is just as tricky.
Yeah.
Like, what's the real difference between empathy, where you genuinely feel with someone, and sympathy, which is more feeling for them, maybe pity?
Yeah, we use those interchangeably sometimes.
You do. Or think about reconciliation versus forgiveness. Similar, related, but not quite the same thing, and the biology and psychology can differ. Understanding these shades of meaning is crucial for understanding connection.
Right. So given all these definitional complexities, these aren't just word games. They have real consequences. Which brings us to this concept Sapolsky introduces that just sounds contradictory. Pathological altruism. What's that about?
It's a really powerful and kind of disturbing idea. So for a psychologist, it might describe something like codependency, enabling a partner's addiction, for example. You think you're being kind and supportive, but you're actually preventing them from getting help. The altruism is harmful.
Okay, I can see that. Harmful helping.
Right. But for a neuroscientist, it can describe something very specific resulting from damage to a part of the brain, the frontal cortex.
Yeah.
He talks about people in these economic games. They keep acting altruistically, keep sharing resources, even when the other player is clearly taking advantage of them, stabbing them in the back repeatedly.
Even if they know they're being cheated.
Yes, that's the key. They can often tell you the other person's strategy is selfish, they can verbalize it, but they can't change their own altruistic behavior. It's like it's stuck on. It's maladaptive.
Wow, that's profoundly unsettling. It makes altruism seem almost like a reflex gone wrong in that case. But I wonder, is there a risk of just calling any extreme kindness pathological? How do we draw the line? And it leads to that bigger question, maybe the ultimate one here. Does pure altruism even exist? Can you really separate doing good from some kind of, maybe not money, but social approval, feeling good about yourself, maybe even, getting into heaven?
It's a classic philosophical and biological question. Sapolsky explores it through this really interesting New Yorker article called The Kindest Cut. It's about people who donate a kidney, not to a relative or friend, but to a complete stranger.
Anonymous donation. Wow.
Seems like the ultimate example of pure altruism, right? No obvious benefit, huge personal cost and risk.
You'd think so. But the reaction is fascinating.
Exactly. These people, these incredible Samaritans, they apparently make everyone around them really uncomfortable. Suspicious even.
People wonder, what's their angle? Are they getting paid under the table? Do they just crave attention? Are they going to, stalk the recipient afterwards?
Right. There's this deep-seated skepticism, this feeling that there has to be some hidden, maybe weird motive. What's her deal?
It's like we can't compute pure goodness without a catch.
Well, the article suggests maybe it's their detached, affectless nature that's so unsettling. They don't always present as warm and fuzzy caregivers. And this ties into a huge point Sapolsky makes again and again. We expect emotion to match the action, especially for big things.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so we've talked definitions, but now we're getting into the meaning being tied to context and emotion. We kind of understand a crime of passion, right? A grieving parent who attacks their child's killer in a rage. It's horrific, but the intense emotion makes it comprehensible on some human level.
Right. We grasp the emotional driver even if we condemn the act.
But that affectless violence, the cold-blooded killer, the fictional Hannibal Lecter whose heart rate barely flickers, that feels monstrous, alien, It's why calling something cold-blooded is such a powerful condemnation. It violates our expectation that extreme acts should come with extreme emotion.
Perfectly put. And it works in reverse for good deeds, too. We expect our best actions, our most pro-social moments, to be warm, heartfelt, full of positive feeling.
We like the warm fuzzies with our kindness.
Exactly. So cold-blooded goodness, it feels weird, almost paradoxical. Sapolsky tells this amazing story about being at a conference with neuroscientists and some very experienced Buddhist monks.
Okay. Unlikely pairing, maybe?
Right. And they're studying the monks' brains during meditation.
Hmm.
One scientist asks a monk, do you ever stop meditating because your knees hurt from sitting like that for so long?
Reasonable question.
And the monk's reply was just, wow. He said something like, sometimes I'll stop sooner than planned, but not because it hurts. It's not really something I notice. It's more like an act of kindness to my knees.
An act of kindness to
Yeah.
his knees. Okay, my brain just short-circuited a little.
Mine too, reading it. And Sapolsky thought, whoa, these guys are like from another planet.
It's admirable, incredibly mindful, but it feels so detached from the way most of us experience pain or make decisions. It highlights how dispassionate kindness, even if effective, can feel alien.
It really can.
Mm.
Which brings us to that powerful quote from Eli Wiesel that Sapolsky mentions. The opposite of love is not hate. Its opposite is indifference.
Mm.
Biologically, Sapolsky explains, strong love and strong hate actually share some similarities in brain activation, in physiological arousal. They're both intense states of engagement. But indifference, that's a completely different neurological and emotional space. It's attachment.
Which raises a really important point, doesn't it? We don't automatically hate aggression. We hate the wrong kind of aggression in the wrong context.
Exactly. In the right context, a soldier defending comrades, a mother protecting her child, we might admire it, even call it heroic.
Right. And conversely, laudable behavior, like altruism, can become harmful or pathological in the wrong context, as we discussed.
So at the end of the day, it's not just about the muscles moving, the physical action itself. It's about the meaning encoded in that action by the context.
The why transforms the what.
Precisely. And Sapolsky backs this up with brain science. He cites this really neat study. People are in a brain scanner looking at a virtual reality scene. In the scene, they might encounter either an injured person needing help or like a scary alien about to attack.
Okay. Two very different situations.
Totally. And the person in the scanner could choose to either apply a virtual bandage or shoot a virtual weapon.
Okay. Bandaging versus shooting. Motorically, very different actions. Pulling a trigger versus applying gauze.
Completely different muscle movements. But here's the kicker. The brain scans showed that bandaging the injured person and shooting the threatening alien activated the same key brain region.
The same region. Which one?
The prefrontal cortex, particularly the part involved in context-dependent decision-making, figuring out the appropriate social response.
So the brain wasn't just processing bandage or shoot. It was processing this is the right thing to do in this specific situation.
You got it. It's all about judging the appropriateness for the given context. The brain is context savvy.
That's really profound. It implies our brains are constantly evaluating meaning, not just executing actions. How much should that make us pause before we judge someone else's actions if the context is so critical? What are we missing when we just see the surface behavior?
It definitely encourages humility, I think, and maybe asking more questions before jumping to conclusions. What was the lead up? What was the person thinking or feeling?
So wrapping this up then, the huge takeaway from this part of Sapolsky's work seems crystal clear. Those big, important words we use for behavior, aggression, altruism, love, hate, competition, they're incredibly slippery. They're hard to pin down because their meaning isn't fixed. It depends entirely on the context.
Exactly. And that's why Sapolsky deliberately avoids framing behaviors as just good or evil or simply pro-social versus antisocial. Instead, the subtitle of his book and his whole approach is about exploring the biology of our best and worst behaviors. Plural, context-dependent. It's really an invitation to appreciate the sheer complexity, the layers upon layers of factors shaping why we do what we do, rather than slapping on a simple label.
That feels like a much richer and probably more accurate way to look at ourselves and others. It's a real shift in perspective. And maybe that's the thought to leave you with today. As you go about your day, notice the behaviors around you and maybe your own reactions. How much does the specific context shape things? Does understanding the why change how you perceive the what? Think about that cold-blooded goodness. Does kindness feel different if it lacks that expected warmth? When you see something you don't immediately understand, what layers of causality might be hidden beneath the surface? Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the fascinating and complex world of human behavior through the lens of Robert Sapolsky. We hope you feel a bit more informed and definitely more curious about the why behind it all.